The producers and distributors of Tech AV technical training aids welcome you to this, the third program in the series on the subject of compressed air systems. This is Module 3 in the series, in which we shall be looking at rotary screw compressors. We shall identify the major parts of a typical compressor unit, describe the operating principles, and then demonstrate and describe basic maintenance procedures. Rotary screw compressors look very different from reciprocating compressors, and indeed they are different, both in construction and in operation. Let us begin by overviewing the major parts of this type of compressor. A typical rotary screw compressor unit will contain the following major components: the compressor unit, an air-oil separator, an oil cooler and an air cooler or aftercoolers, a forced draft fan. The compressor may be powered by an electric motor in the case of most factory units, or, as in the case of this mobile unit, with a diesel engine. The motor may be coupled to the compressor with drive belts, or the motor may be directly coupled to the compressor. Let us now overview the basic operating principles. The major difference between a rotary screw and a reciprocating compressor is that instead of pistons being used as the pumping elements, the screw type uses contra-rotating rotors that turn within a rotor housing. The rotors rotate, and in so doing, air is displaced and forced in between the rotor lobes and the housing. From here on, the air is screwed along with the rotating tips, much the same as meat is pushed through a mincer. Compressed air is discharged at the end of the housing. In this type of compressor, only one of the rotors receives the incoming power. The powered rotor then rotates the driven rotor. This means that the rotors make physical contact with each other, and for this reason the rotors must be adequately lubricated. Lubrication in the form of specially formulated oil is circulated in large volumes throughout the system. It is for this reason that the compressor is known as a wet screw type. In operation, the lubricating oil mixes with the compressing air and thereafter has to be separated. This is achieved in a device called an air-oil separator. The air-oil separator also acts as a receiver. When the air and oil mixture enters the separator, most of the oil drops to the bottom of the tank, whilst the air passes out through the top. At this time, both the oil and the air will have become very hot as a result of friction and compression. For efficient operation, the oil and the air must be cooled. This is achieved by passing both through separate heat exchangers or aftercoolers. Airflow from a cooling fan is ducted over the cooling fins of the aftercoolers, thereby carrying away heat into the atmosphere. Having been sufficiently cooled, the oil is returned into the internal lubrication system and recycled via an oil filter back to the compressor housing. Compressed air leaves the air cooler and is then delivered via the main shutoff valve to the main airline system or air main. Rotary screw compressors, specifically the wet screw type, are heavily dependent upon an adequate flow of oil and upon an adequate flow of atmospheric air across the cooling fins in the coolers. From a maintenance point of view, these are the most important conditions, and most maintenance tasks are centered upon ensuring that these conditions are met.